So, I have some interesting thoughts about devotion in a relationship and feminine energy, feminine essence, and how these two reconcile and show up in a relationship, as well as within the feminine essence being. And I feel like this could be relevant for the masculine essence being as well, because if you're in relationship with the feminine essence being, then it's going to affect you. So I've had a interesting journey with this. I've always been pretty magnetic to men in the opposite sex. Romance came to me quite easily. I've had a decent amount of relationships, was never single for very long. And yeah, you could say I've had plenty of romantic opportunities and romantic experiences. And the younger version of myself really enjoyed having the abundance of male attention, validation, and I think back then I was operating with a more unhealed version of this energy, of this magnetic energy, because I had no boundaries. I would accept invitations from pretty much anyone. And I'm not talking about like sexually, because I was actually like a prude until like college. But anyway, but in the sense that like I would talk to any guy that would try and talk to me. Like I wasn't very selective with my time and my energy and who I was giving my attention to. And my earlier relationships as well, they weren't very selective. It was more like, okay, yeah, I like you. Um, but there was no consideration going into like, how compatible are we? Are we aligned? Like, I didn't think about any of this. I was also like 16 years old, so I can give myself a break. Um, but yeah, it was just like very unstructured and uncontained, that energy, and I was just all over the place. It was chaotic. And it also caused some issues in my relationships, right? Because I lacked those boundaries and I lacked that idea of like, okay, this is a relationship container and I need to be devoted and there needs to be certain boundaries set in place to protect this relationship that I'm in and this agreement I've made with my partner. But back then, I didn't have a sense of that. So I would be in relationship, but I was still engaging with other men in a way that was crossing the boundary. Like I didn't cheat or physically do anything. But like I was giving these men outside of my relationship maybe too much attention, too much of my energy, and maybe allowing and accepting too much energy from them as well. But I was also with men who are more passive and they didn't assert their boundaries with me either. So it was just like a bad dynamic, like a negative cycle to being, because they're kind of enabling this behavior. And from my end, it's like I get this dopamine hit and these like positive associations with external validation seeking, and I don't really have any consequences because my partner at the time, whoever I was with, didn't have the boundaries set in place either. So like they weren't holding the container either. So it was just all over the place. And recently, maybe not recently, but I'd say in the past 5 years or so, the partners that I've been with are different. And these are, men who have a lot more self-respect and more of their masculine energy in place, and there's a stronger container. So that's when I realized, like, oh, I can't be leaking my energy elsewhere if I'm in a relationship, and I need to be devoted and committed and loyal, which is great. But this last relationship that I was in is kind of like the extreme end of that, right? So this person would get so jealous about everything. And I felt like everything I did was wrong. Like texting someone, talking to someone, even if it was like completely platonic, it wasn't okay for this person, because they're like, oh, if the guy you're talking to has any slight romantic interest or intention towards you, then he's not a friend. And I guess, so many things happened in this relationship, but basically I found myself in this position where I was constantly trying to gain his approval and trying to prove myself, prove my loyalty, prove my commitment, to the point where like I'm totally brainwashed by him, and I would judge myself and like shame myself for all these little things, and I felt so terrible about myself and questioned myself all the time, like, oh my god, am I just like not capable of being 100% committed and devoted? And I was really struggling with that. And from my perspective, I was doing like a pretty damn good job at being loyal and committed. And then after I left this relationship, I joined this course by this tantric teacher. And she was talking about how it's healthy for women or feminine essence beings to have what she called a men vortex. And what the men vortex is, she says, this is naturally wired in our biology, right? Because if you think about the egg, there are billions of sperm coming towards this one egg. And the egg is the prize, and all the sperm is just swimming towards it and trying to make it as the one. So naturally, that's how it works with women and men, or feminine masculine energies as well. The feminine energy is supposed to be radiant and magnetic and attract all these like masculine energies around her. Like that's actually very healthy for her to have, and a good sign that she is in her radiance. She is in her power. And she is in her magnetism. That's how she feels alive, and that's how she is living her full self and her full potential. Whereas for men, it's different, because the sperm only has one goal, which is to reach the egg. So men needs to be more focused and one directional in their romantic pursuit, which may sound unfair, but that's kind of how it works. But the nuance here, though, is that when it comes to the men vortex, like there are certain energetic boundaries that you must have with the men that are in your men vortex. And I don't know if my teacher has given like a definition of what the men vortex is, but how I'm interpreting it is like in my life, I'm always going to have men in my life, right? It could be friends, coworkers, people I pass by on the street, people at my gym, whatever. There are always men that I'm interacting with. And if I'm fully in my radiance, fully in my power, fully in my magnetism, they're naturally going to be drawn to me. There's like a natural chemistry or attraction that's present. However, that doesn't mean that either of us needs to act on that attraction or that magnetism, right? Like, maybe we can acknowledge it, or maybe we don't have to, but it's just like this really beautiful energy that's present between two people that you can feel. But it doesn't have to be anything sexual or romantic, even. It's more of this feeling of like, oh, I see you, I acknowledge you, you're very radiant, and I like that. But like, it doesn't need to go further than that. So I'm still playing around with how this shows up in my life and what this means. But I think first of all, I'm removing so much shame and guilt with how I'm interacting with men. Because when I was with my ex, it's like every time I talk to a guy, a part of me is like anxious and scared that, oh shit, is this bad? Is this like a lack of devotion? Or, I start questioning myself. But that's complete bullshit. Like you're allowed to have interactions with other men. That's not your boyfriend. Like that's completely normal and fine to have. Um so yeah, the first thing is like get rid of that shame. Get rid of that shame. Like it's natural for a radiant woman to have men around her and to have men to be drawn to her. It's completely normal and a good sign. Like if you're with a healthy masculine man, he's not going to feel bad about that. He's going to feel good about that because his woman is radiant and magnetic, and other men wants her because she's a high value woman. Like, wouldn't you be concerned if your partner, like, no one else is interested in your partner? Like, that's a little concerning, right? And it should be very flattering that so many people find your partner attractive or magnetizing, because that means they have a lot of value, they have a lot of radiance. So, yeah, it's normal to have that, and it's a good thing to have that. It's a healthy thing to have that. And the second thing is, how do you engage with these men in a way that's natural and healthy and does not infringe upon your container, your relationship container? And for me, I mean, I'm not in a relationship right now, but because I left my previous relationship, I'm slowly opening myself back up to men and just kind of noticing how I interact with them. And for me right now, I'm just practicing keeping myself open. So, like, being curious about them, asking questions, and kind of just like engaging with them platonically without having any agenda or worries or anxiety, and really just like getting to know them with an open heart and gracefully and graciously receiving what they would like to offer to me. So if they want to help me carry something, if they want to pay for my lunch, if they want to give me advice on something, teach me something. Learning to receive that gracefully without feeling like, oh, now I owe them something, or like, oh, now I'm I'm scared that they're going to look for something or seek for something from me. Um, because a lot of times they're just being nice and they just want to offer something of value to me, and that's what makes men feel good, feel accomplished, and actually fills their cup. And it's just this really beautiful interaction we're having where they're filling up my feminine through providing something for me, and I'm allowing them to provide, and therefore I'm filling their cup of being the provider and being appreciated, being seen. And this could be so pure. Like it could just be this very wholesome exchange without it having to turn into anything romantic or sexual. Um, so I'm playing around with that. And I mean, I'm not in a relationship, but I would imagine if in my next relationship, my partner is a healthy masculine man. So he's, first of all, he's not going to be so threatened by these other men in my life because he knows that I chose him. And he actually feels good that I have all these men around me, and yet I chose him. And then there's like trust between us enough so that I am free to have interactions with people and allow myself to be in my radiance, but at the same time, I have the right boundaries of what feels respectful versus not to my partner and to my relationship. So I think it's a nuanced thing, and maybe it's a case by case thing as well, of maybe some people you could be a little bit more open with and some not as much, and depending on the situation and so on. But I just think it's a really fascinating topic and a really interesting dynamic to play with. And I feel like I've been on both ends of the spectrum now, of like from being kind of have no boundaries at all to like trying really hard and being really rigid and trying to prove myself so hard, but like that didn't feel good. So it's kind of like that middle ground of like allowing yourself to be seen, and for and opening yourself up to receive from men that's not your partner, but at the same time keeping a respectful boundary. If you have any thoughts on this, please leave a comment, because I'm still figuring this out and still learning, but just interesting thoughts around this whole thing.